get to the bag, ayy. Got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast, ayy. Let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss, ayy.
This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agent success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, you guys, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Wednesday, everybody. I got a very special guest for you guys here today, and I'm going to bring him up in a second. I do just got to bring this up, though, because my team always wants me to remind people at the beginning of the show, we have a weekly newsletter. It drops every single day, or every single Wednesday, which is today, but I don't auto-sign people up for it. I need you to go to my website, thefreightcoach.com. It'll auto prompt you to register. Again, it's once a week. I don't even know who signed up for it. My team tracks this stuff. So and frankly, when it comes to selling out my email addresses and contacts, that's why I want you guys to go in there and do it, because I personally get annoyed when people just automatically sign me up for their newsletter. So yeah, if you want to check it out, do that. It's all freight related, because freight's all I know at the end of the day. But with that being said, you guys, we're going to talk about, crowdsourcing intelligence today. We're going to talk about how do we improve the driver experience out there on the road, and especially here in Phoenix, Arizona, anytime I can have somebody in Freight Valley come on the show, I'm going to do that. So I have Mr. Chris Oliver on the show with Trucker Path. Chris, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
Hey, Chris. Happy to be here, man.
No, I'm glad you're here. And like I said, my friends over at Freight Vana, they coined the term that instead of calling Phoenix the Valley, it's just Freight Valley now, and we're gonna run with that, because it's a growing scene out here, man. And we always like going out there and talking to local companies like yourself. So I always like to start off every single show kind of the same way. Chris, how'd you get your start in freight? What brought you into the transportation industry?
I kind of just tripped into it, to be honest with you. And I think most people say that. I was a young kid, finishing college, doing market research. And at that, this is way back in the 1900s, of course. And there was a Clean Air Act was coming into play, and that was going to require a lot of on-site fueling facilities to move off-site or upgrade, which no one was going to do. So we did a big research project and really identified a lot of on-site fuel being purchased that was going to move into the retail sector, and sold that project to most of the major oil companies. And they're like, "This is great. Now what do we do with it?" So then I became a CRM expert and built a CRM systems to help them find the fleets that were going to be moving offsite. Next thing you know, I'm in the fleet business.
Yeah.
And you fast forward, 35 years, and here I am. I've been working in fleet and transportation technology since 1900s.
What I like about with what you guys are, and we'll get into kind of the origin here of Trucker Path and everything, but for me, having that technology built out for the driver community, I think it's an overlooked segment from the masses, right? Because I don't think a lot of people actually truly understand what drivers go through out there. They're most importantly, they're what technology is important to them to kind of benefit them in their day to day. So what inspired Trucker Path to begin with? How did Trucker Path come about?
The original founders were actually Russian, And as we all know, there's a pretty large number of Russian drivers. And they had friends who were just had difficulty finding truck stops, just a very simple little project. And they built a small app to support that, really targeted at their friends, who then told their other friends, et cetera, and it started to grow and grow. And it went from just truck stops, to truck stops with fuel pricing, then to ratings and reviews. And then the crowdsourcing really started kicking in. And when the ratings and reviews began, and we started, asking the users to help with the information we needed, to make a day in the life a little bit easier for the drivers. That from there, drivers started suggesting hotels and rest areas and restaurants be part of the map layers because they could fit their trucks there. They were truck friendly per se, and they thought they'd be good. So it just grew and grew and grew. And as fast forward to today, the community of users is over 1 million active users on Trucker Path alone, and tens of millions of input of user generated content a month from those million users, all really designed to help each other out.
Mm-hmm. Why was it so? Like I look at, I love with truck parking and fuel prices and everything else, because again, like I go out there and I think about it. Like a lot of the smaller operations, they don't qualify for like a discount at some of the larger, fuel, truck stops. We won't name any names or anything like that. But like, this is one of those things where it's like, it's a pennies game, right? Like profitability boils down to pennies in trucking, especially when you're an owner operator or any business trying to get out there and build up their reserves and everything. You got to be looking at your P&L like a hawk on where all of your money goes. And obviously fuel is a major expense out there. So it's like when I hear stuff like that, I mean, you just never know, especially if you're driving in a new part of the country. You don't know if it's 10 cents a gallon cheaper 20 miles down the road and stuff like that. And if you have the time and then like now, especially with ELDs and everything else, you have to, I mean, ELDs has been around for a while, but like I'm using that example because every minute of your day has to be planned out accordingly. And if you can go out there and you can save a little bit of money to, cut into some of your largest expenses, like those are those things where, I look back with my old man when he was driving, for example, like these little things like that, that's what keeps owner ops and the smaller fleets in business. But, when you say it like that, though, but it's like that's 90% of the industry, Chris, is that 5 truck or less operation. I think it's like 97% of the trucks on the road are 20 truck or less operations.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I like Trucker Path. I've been drawn to this business because first and foremost, we take care of the drivers. And a lot of people in the industry heard me say, I've believed for decades that if the driver is treated well, everything else is going to be all right. That's the person who does the work. There are a lot of us who support that work and do things that are pretty complex and difficult and admirable and all those wonderful things, but none of it would matter if a driver wasn't moving the truck.
Yeah.
So the more we can take care of that guy and make it a little bit more comfortable, then we can move into the owner operator space and help him to make it a little bit more profitable and efficient and safe. That's a great thing. So it's, not only are we a good business from a P&L standpoint and business perspective, but, our mission, I think, is very, very well focused.
No, absolutely. So what is crowdsourcing data? Like, I want to break it down in like the most simplest of terms out there. And then with that also, how do you guys ensure the accuracy behind that said data?
Gotcha. So, I mean, crowdsourced data is sourced from the crowd. It's shocking there, right? It's really users on the platform providing information that fuels the platform and helps others. I think a very similar consumer-based comparison is Yelp.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how often you use it, but there was a time when that was the app to use to find a place to go, right? And that's, the businesses post their locations, but it's the user generated content, the crowdsourced information that really makes it powerful. It's the same in Trucker Path. We're more like a Yelp and Waze jammed together, but both of them depend upon that user generated content and crowdsourced data to make it better than what it is natively. And so we get lots. We have a team of about 20 people that vet all the inbound data points we get, not down to parking availability. We can't police, are there a lot of spots available or a few spots available, but in terms of recommending new locations being added, things of that nature, we vet them pretty aggressively to make sure that what we put on the Trucker Path app and map actually is truck friendly.
Yeah. No, I think that like that's what's most important because, then I was going to, kind of going into the navigation aspect of things. I think at times people, everybody relies on like Google Maps, for example. And it's like, is that the truck route though? Is that the most beneficial for your, like the mileage and everything else? And the answer is always no, right? Like if you've ever used Google Maps to try and inside of trucking, I would say the overwhelming amount of times it's not accurate is extremely high compared to like truck routes and everything else. And that's why it's like, again, I think it's always a good point to remind people, brokers, this is why you don't give out directions and everything else that comes along with it, because you it's just don't do that part. But, so like, how are you, like, how is your guys' mapping and route planning and all, how is that different from everything else that's out there?
Yeah, so let's talk about the navigation for just a minute, because like you said, Google Maps is kind of the default, I think, for everybody.
Yeah.
Be it four-wheeler or truck. Frankly, it's a really good way to turn your trailer into a convertible. It doesn't take into account the dimensions. It doesn't take into account the dimensions of the truck and the height and those types of restrictions. So that's where we come in. And we've got kind of two layers of special sauce there. One is relatively the same as most commercial truck navigation engines. We take into account the dimensions of the truck. We look at the same core databases that all the other providers look at and route them accordingly. The special sauce that we have is that we've been doing that for about 8 years. And for those 8 years, we've had our million, well, today it's 1 million. Back then it was about 800,000 when we started. All these professional drivers telling us where that core data is wrong. So we may think that a road is truck restricted, and maybe it was when the database was created, but today it's not. So they're able to push a button similar to Waze and tell us, no, it's not, and send a picture. And then our team goes out and vets that. And if it's proven to be accurate, we maintain that as an edit to the core database. And you can imagine over the years, many, thousands of these a month come into us. So what's happened is we've got the same core data layer that everyone else kind of relies upon, but then we've got 1 million real world drivers telling us where that's been wrong. And we retain that to help make it easier and more effective for them.
So how are you guys out there expanding that portion of it? Like in regards to, obviously when you're with navigation and then truck parking and everything else that comes along with it, and I'm bringing this up because obviously it's one of the rare days we're getting weather out here in Arizona, but the mountains are getting pounded with snow and there's a lot of stuff that's going on out there. How does that real-time weather, road shutdowns, when I-80 gets shut down for a freak blizzard that rolls through, how are drivers able to utilize your guys' product to see, hey, this road's closed, and maybe get that notification ahead of time so they're not getting stuck out there on the side of the road? They can find parking and shelter to shut down.
Yeah, that's another one of our differentiators, I guess I would say, is real-time data. We talked about Google Maps earlier, and let's be honest, drivers are consumers as much as they're business people. So, in my four-wheeler world, I use Google Maps a lot, and I'm used to real live data. That's what Trucker Path is also. So we have real live weather feeds. We've tapped into the 511 network throughout the country, ADOS, lots of different external feeds coming in real live time. So I'm assuming there probably is some snow up on the 40 today up in northern Arizona. We show the radar map so you can see there's a storm. We also suggest alternative routes. We estimate what the delay will be based upon the weather, suggest alternative routes. And we've even in the last 3 or 4 months gotten to the point where we've tapped into the 511 camera network throughout the entire country. So if you're sitting outside of Flagstaff in traffic, stopped, wondering what's going on, and there's weather ahead, you can see that. You can literally touch the traffic maps, the traffic camera icon at the top of the map, and see the live camera feed down ahead to see what's going on the road to help you make an informed decision. So all of this live data between road conditions, weather, camera feeds comes together to help the driver make a much more informed experience and keep the wheels turning.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that obviously that's one of the most important aspects of it. And then, again, it's just the safety aspect of it as well, right? Like making that call to pull off, ahead of time and actually be parked in a safe and secure area as opposed to trying to roll through. Because, I've said this before and I'll say it again, no truckload is worth human life. And, there's a lot of these weather events come, like, again, I wish there was everybody could plan. And, because the weathermen and women out there are probably the least accurate in guessing what's going to actually happen out there. But again, it's like being able to tap into that camera network, I think is something that I know I've done in my career a few times, especially when you're out there, because, when you're sitting in sunny Arizona or Florida and you hear weather in a certain part of the country, you don't always want to believe it, right? Because most people just like to look out their window and be like, well, if it's nice here, it's got to be nice in Wyoming, right? And it's to be able to tap into that network, send those screenshots out there, let your customer know, and especially if there's a delay that's going to come along with it. It's utilizing that technology out there to your benefit. And, so like, I want to talk a little bit, because you guys have a load board, right? And that freight matching aspect of things. How did that come about? Was that more of a user request, Chris, where they're like, hey, we want to kind of like have a closed freight loop to come along with this?
Yeah, truckloads. Our load board was born, I think it was 3 or 4 years after Trucker Path was born. And yeah, it was really, at the request of the user base. It started off, really a free posted load board. It still is. Brokers can still post our load board for free, either directly or via an Excel file or CSV they send us. And some of the larger brokers we tap directly into with via API to make sure we keep it in and everything you would expect. But yeah, I was really scratching an itch for the user base, and it really does round out the entire experience. I mean, my goal when I joined the company was to really sit back, think about a day in the life of a driver, both an owner operator and a company driver. And then, as I said, scratch the itches throughout the day. So from an owner operator's perspective, if you're sitting in Phoenix and you need to get out of here, you need a load board. So we've got a load board. It's embedded. It's deep linked right from Trucker Path. You can go over and find all the loads out of Phoenix to wherever, search by rate, commodity, et cetera, all the things you would expect. And then once you've procured that load, then we're able to navigate you, help you get out of Phoenix safely into your destination safely. Along the way, we've got real-time parking availability at most places a truck can park throughout the country. So when you're going to shut down, you can do that efficiently and reliably and safely, most importantly. And we've got fuel prices at truck stops all the way along the way. We have a fuel optimizer to suggest when to stop and where and how much to fuel to keep those costs down. We recently announced a partnership with WEX 10-4, where all of their entire discount network is available through Trucker Path. So you talked earlier about small fleets not being able to negotiate big deals. Well, we're a big fleet, so we're able to actually get some great deals for them to utilize. It's available to all of our users. So we've got loads, we've got navigation, we have parking, we have fuel. Also included in the map are maintenance facilities if something happens. Creature comforts like satellite radio. I think you see here that, we're literally ticking a box on every step in the day of the life of the load. Even when they arrive at the dock, we've got great dock information we capture via that user-generated content or crowdsourced data. Is there a gate? Is there a guard? Do you need an appointment? Can you park? Are there restrooms? All the things drivers need to know is available to them. And then when the job's done, they can use our scanning app to take a picture of the paperwork, get it scanned, and send it off to their factoring company or to the boss so they can get paid.
Yeah. I got a lot I want to touch on after what you're saying there. So now to be able to get that doc report that you're talking about there, does that have to be a load that was through the load board from your Trucker Pass load board, or can this be anything out there? Because like I've said this a lot, and I know when we first met yesterday, I was talking about this. I think the greatest play out there from a tech perspective alone is predictive analytics on the freight that is actually moving. And the example that I had used was, hey, if there might be a load from Phoenix to Dallas, hypothetically, it's posted for $2,000 out there. But if there's going to be inside information on the dock about like, hey, there's a high probability it's going to take 6 hours to load and 6 hours to offload, which could cost you future revenue, that this other load out there that might be moving for $1,800 has a low probability of being held up at the shipper or the receiver. That one is now more appealing, right? There's a faster load, faster offload time that comes along with it. I think that's where I'm the most excited about with freight tech and where things are going, because that's going to keep the drivers moving, right? Because at the end of the day, that's the one thing my dad always said: if my wheels aren't turning, I ain't earning. And so again, it's like you're looking at you're chasing pennies at that point if there's a higher probability that you're not going to get empty and moving along the same way. So My question is the dock thing, is that for any load that any of your users are hauling, or does it have to be a trucker path specific shipment?
It's for any of our users. Even if you're not hauling a load and you're just curious or doing some research on maybe you'd like to target a new shipper as a potential customer, it's available to everyone. So it's, going back to that crowdsourced data. As I mentioned yesterday, I joke all the time and say Trucker Pass should have just been called Hooking a Brother Up, because that's what we do, is we help drivers give other drivers good information to help them manage their day or their business better. So we don't withhold a lot. A lot of the Trucker Path value is a freemium experience, and that's why we have such a large audience. We obviously, we're a business and we need to make some money, so there are things that require a subscription, but a large amount of the crowdsourced data that I talk about is available to everyone.
Yeah, and that's something that I like about where things are trending, though, because it's like, for the driver community that's out there, one of the biggest complaints that I see from them is they're being held up, right? Like there's information that's not being passed along to them. And, again, I can only speak for my organization, and we give our drivers literally everything that we have out there. And, when it comes down to loading time and offloading time, I think that the best way to clean up a lot of that is from the Yelp perspective, right? Shippers and receivers, if they have a lagging, operation that's going on out there, people need to be aware of it, right? Because I feel like that's the only way that things are ever going to get cleaned up, because there shouldn't be any tolerance towards that comes along with it. And that will help a driver pick and choose what freight they actually want to move out there. Because again, like, nobody wants to work for free, and nobody should have to work for free. And I think, like, with what you guys are doing with that, and especially from that crowdsourced information, I've never known a driver to not want to tell the truth out there. And that's why I love talking to them, because that's just the way that things are going to get fixed.
Yeah, it's like I said, we get a lot of inputs, either whether it's ratings, reviews, or parking availability, way station status. I mean, like, it's a great community. And I agree with you. Drivers typically aren't shy. They're willing to share, especially when it's helping them, and it could help each other out. It's a brotherhood. Let's be honest. It's just always has been the entire time I've been part of the industry. So to be able to leverage that for the benefit of all, like I said, is, it sounds kind of Boy Scouty, but that's one of the big reasons why I decided to join Trucker Path, was let's take care of those drivers, and everything else will get in line.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are servicing drivers, overarching, right? So it's like you guys aren't just for owner operators. You guys are out there working with fleets and small, small to medium sized fleets, or I'm sure even enterprise fleets out there. So like when you're using this, like what can you say to those, small to mid sized fleets that you guys are really targeting as well? And like, how does your tool really integrate into their organization? Is it via API? Like, what does that tech stack look like, and what's needed?
Yeah, so it's, small, from the single unit owner operator up to, we have fleet customers, north of 1,000 units, north of 1,000 units. So obviously it's owner operator level. It's an individual consumer type subscription through an app store. But then we have Trucker Path for fleets, which is everything I just talked about, except it's all based upon the fleet providing licenses and seats to their drivers. And it makes it real easy. It's every time you send a job to a driver, either it's directly or via TMS or telematics stack, Trucker Path takes over. You accept the job, and it becomes a Trucker Path experience for navigation. So we're fully integrated with, over 100 ELDs, and all the majors are deeply integrated. So, Platform Science, Samsara, Motive, Geotab. Essentially, when you hit go and the job goes to a driver and the driver accepts the job, the Trucker Path experience can take over that tablet screen and navigate them and help them all along the way. Of course, with fleets, we add controls, so they're able to expose certain truck stop change that they want or don't want to, fueling that they want or don't want to. We give them those business controls, but the end user experience is very much the Trucker Path experience. And I tell you, it resonates quite well when someone asks me to explain Trucker Path to them and tell them why they should consider it as a fleet manager. It really makes me feel good to say, you know what? I'm going to give you a bunch of good answers. I get paid to do this. Just go ask your drivers, because I guarantee about a third of them are already using it. Mm-hmm. And we're batting 1,000 on that. It's always a positive experience. So as a technology provider in the industry, it's not easy to get drivers to adopt and utilize the technology you want them to use. This is the exception.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was gonna be my question, right? How do you get that tech adoption out there? Because I think that's one of those things that, again, it looks great for the office manager and the fleet manager and everything else, but like, how do you get that driver to adopt that technology and really run with that? So like, what are some of those things that you guys identified early on? Was it through that crowdsourced data where we're like, hey, we got to change this. This isn't conducive to our daily operations. How did you guys get that tech adoption to be such a high percentage?
Listening. I mean, it sounds so novel, but listening, you listen to what the users ask for, you provide it to them in a user-friendly way. And then also we have a phenomenal development team, like phenomenal. And out of we have about 175 people total in Trucker Path, and about 150 are badged to our development team. We're very, very much a technology company playing in the industry. And as a result, I mean, I'm not that guy. I'm a general trucking business guy, right? But I tell you, when I use an app, I know instantly if it's good or not, if it's the way I like it to be, if it feels right or not. And our development team does a phenomenal job of bringing a lot of consumer app experience to this business application. So listen to the drivers, respond and the users, and respond and give them what they ask for, as reasonably, of course, and then make it good software. Make the user experience the way it should be. Perfect example: most truck drivers are men north of 50 years old, right? A tiny little button this big doesn't really work because it's hard to see and we got fat fingers. So, simple little adjustments like that in the design of the app itself make it easier to use and more user-friendly. So all that comes together into hooking a brother up.
Where do you see this evolving, Chris? Where does trucking tech go from here, right? Because like, obviously there's a lot of great stuff out there, but looking to the future with innovation and everything else, how does that improve in the next, say, 5 years?
The 5 years, I think, technology changes so much. I mean, 5 years ago, we wouldn't even have talked about AI. Yeah. And now everybody talks about it. And I promise I'm not going to drone on about AI, but I will say that AI to us it will essentially replace the software. Mm-hmm. Where today we do have voice activated controls to a degree, but it's going to change by leaps and bounds, way less than 5 years, where you'll really be like talking to an assistant. It's kind of like Jarvis, with Iron Man, that type of experience where all the data is there, but how you interact with the data and how it interacts with you will change dramatically, so that very much from the Trucker Path perspective. Industry-wide, I think it'll make tremendous impacts, not just on talking to agents and interacting with software, but the way data is utilized and put into operation is going to change for all of us. And you can read a lot of books, you can read a lot of blogs and podcasts and whatever you want, but nobody really understands what that's going to look like, especially in this industry in 5 years. So, I think we're at an inflection point like we've never experienced before. It's, way back in the day with paper logs, the idea of ELDs was dramatically, shocking throughout the industry. But then it was mandated and it was adopted, and I recognize as reluctantly. However, if I look at today at a fleet operation compared to when I was involved in the telematics business at Zonar, the data that's utilized and how it's utilized has changed tremendously. And I thank the ELD mandate for that. It forced people to put the technology in their trucks to generate this data. Now they see the value of it. Yeah. So I think this is going to continue. It's going to compress and become much more dramatic, much more quickly. And the way a trucking company is operated is going to be significantly different than it is today, just because of the availability and consumability of the information that's generated by all these different systems.
No, I agree with that, Chris. And again, we're and this might be something you guys are working on, so you might not even be able to comment on something like this, but I look at it from like with all the integrations that are out there right now. And, you're talking about your truck parking maps and like the maintenance maps and everything else that you guys have in there. I think something that would be awesome to see is, again, it's that preventative maintenance that comes along with it, where you're going to be able to plan out and be like, hey, I need my oil changed in, X amount of time. boom, this is en route, and you can go and schedule that, have it done. So it's like, and then you can also plan it around your 34-hour shutdown and everything else. And you can maximize all of that stuff from like a maintenance perspective and everything else. That's one thing that I think with technology, APIs, and, you know, and all the integrations that are out there, I think that would be awesome to see. So it's like, you know, anytime it's like, hey, your tires are below 50%, schedule it to get them replaced and stuff like that. I think that's going to be cool to see where that evolves to.
Yeah, for sure. And the data's there. It's really hard to crunch that data and do it. You know, as you know, most of the major sophisticated fleets do just that today.
Yeah.
Or pretty darn close. But they got a whole team of data scientists and everybody else who's cranking through all this data to figure it out. Our mission is to bring all of the smarts down to the small guy. And
yeah.
You know, the technology is now there. It's just a question of learning it and massaging it into shape so it's easily consumable.
I love it, man. Chris, thank you so much for your time today. How does anybody reach out to you if they want to find out more about what you guys got going on at Trucker Path?
Yeah, well, obviously our website, truckerpath.com, pretty straightforward. My personal, I'm chris.oliver at truckerpath.com. So I'm super happy to field any emails or questions. I tend to be at most industry shows too. So tackle me. I'm around.
Perfect. I appreciate that, Chris. And that's going to be it for today, you guys. If you guys can't find Chris or Trucker Path out there, hit me up. I will gladly put you guys in contact with them. But that is going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard and you're not subscribed, subscribe to the show, you guys. And if you're feeling ambitious, rank it on iTunes and Spotify, because if you saw value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out money, anything. Hey, ooh, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when I'm getting to the